and welcome to this episode of PsychMedia. Now, today we're going to be a little bit topical and discuss Sesame Street and broader representation in children's media. Now, if you feel that discussions of diversity may upset you, why are you watching this? So in the episode on Sesame Street and Being Believed, we talked about how children use TV reality as a kind of safe place to test out emotions and experiences, living them through the actions and adventures of characters that they relate to. Children are innately empathetic from a very young age, and social development is crucial to overall cognitive development. We empathize with our family and our friends, so why not the characters in our favorite show? The line between what a young child sees on TV and reality can end up blurred sometimes. It took an entire afternoon of my very patient mother explaining that people on TV weren't talking to me specifically before I could grasp the concept. See, PBS was doing a funds drive, and an authoritative but kind adult kept telling me to go and get my parents right away. My mother was busy in the other room working on her PhD at the time, and I was only 3, so it did take a bit for me to understand. That reality blurring means that children tend to feel very close to the characters in the media that they watch. Young characters become peers and friends, while older characters would be viewed as trusted guardians, mirroring their real-life social relationships. The hope would be that these TV realities would be close to the world the child lives in, discounting fantasy aspects, but places where a child could feel safe and wanted, places where what they see reminds them of the real world. So let's jump right into this. Recently, a former Sesame Street writer was quoted as saying that he considered Bert and Ernie's relationship to be a loving same-sex relationship, and that he patterned it on the relationship between him and his partner. Frank Oz, Ernie's creator and performer, has countered that the two are based on his friendship with Jim Henson, although that was also a relationship between two same-sex individuals which could be described as loving. Now, Sesame Street has released some statements on the matter, and they basically boil down to our show is diverse, everyone should feel loved and welcomed, but in the end, puppets don't have relationships or sexual orientation, the end. Now, we're not here to discuss headcanon, actual canon, the details and personal interpretations of what constitutes a loving same-sex relationship, or any of those nitpicking arguments or semantic debates. We are going to focus on representation, and why it's not only good for children, it's crucial to their social, emotional, and cognitive development. Now, if you feel differently, please feel free to cite your peer-reviewed sources in the comment section below. Going back to TV reality, young children relate to each other by first relating to themselves and then broadening that understanding. That's called the theory of mind, and it varies by individual. So let's make a new show and make the main character African American. African American children can watch the show and think, hey, that kid's just like me. While other children can watch a show and think, hey, that kid's just like my friend from school. There's a famous quote by Whoopi Goldberg when she first saw Nichelle Nichols on Star Trek, where she ran through the house shouting, everyone look, there's a black lady on television and she ain't a maid. Martin Luther King Jr. even counseled Nichols not to leave the show, as her being on TV in a position of equality was inspiring children across the country. In psychology, we talk a lot about individual differences and lived experiences. That means basically that everyone is different, and everyone brings their own outlook to a situation based on those differences and their life experiences. Statistically, we know that everything varies within a given population. So there will be people of all ethnicities, all manner of differently abled individuals, people existing on the autism spectrum, all kinds of sexual orientations, gender identities, and a myriad of loving families all different from each other. This is the world we live in, so shouldn't TV reality reflect the true beauty of our human population? Children need self-esteem and self-confidence for healthy development, so seeing characters similar to themselves, especially characters that can be successful, can be very beneficial to their early growth. To bring in a bit of social identity theory, a great deal of social conflict can be healed or even completely mitigated just through social interaction, even if that's only taking place in our theoretical TV reality. So a child watching someone like themselves interact positively with someone different can foster more understanding and lead to less real-life conflict with members of this other group. Even fictional relationships matter. The idea that not seeing, for example, LGBT plus people positively represented in the media results in LGBT plus children believing that they're invisible, flawed, or worse. That's a very real truth. Representation in media, especially for children, teaches empathy for both self and other. It teaches that someone is valid no matter their differences, and that knowing and being friends with different people is normal and awesome. Our world is a lot bigger than it was 100, 50, 20, even 10 years ago. We live in a global age, and it's becoming increasingly rare not to know someone of another gender, ethnicity, ability, orientation, or identity, or to be that person yourself. Sesame Street was created with the goal of using the medium of TV to bring education to children, and that includes social and cognitive education. Thus, children's media carries the burden of doing right by children, regardless of profit. Okay, real talk. So, critics of representation argue that it might teach their children about parts of humanity they'd rather their offspring not know about. But at the end of the day, there's no stopping representation in real life. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the South African Sesame Street co-production added a Muppet character named Kami in 2002. Kami is an HIV-positive 5-year-old meant to reduce stigma and stereotypes around children in the country who were born with HIV. Likewise, in 2015, Sesame Street debuted a 4-year-old Muppet character, Julia, who is on the autism spectrum. She provides spectrum kids with a feeling of representation, as well as helping kids understand their spectrum friend or sibling. Now, I don't know how this Sesame Street story will resolve, but I do know that the loving relationship between Bert and Ernie, be it platonic or romantic, is evident. And when I was young, it helped me understand that differences really don't matter among friends. But what about you? Was there a movie or show that made you feel personally represented? Did the representation of someone else actually help you to understand them better? Let me know in the comments. Well, that's been this episode of PsychMedia. Please like and subscribe if you feel moved to do so. And as always, if you did want to support myself or the show, there's a link to my Patreon in the description box below. Bye now. Thank you to the following patrons, with an especial thank you to Gomer, Nate Watson, and Ed Palnick.